Hello, everybody. Welcome to Medicine and Science on the Pod TV network, one of the few shows on any network that actually deals with medicine and science. For some reason, in the United States of America, we don't tend to want to look at medicine and science when it represents 20% of our GDP, which is our gross domestic product, which is the money that you spend on medicine. With that, we do have a subject matter expert who is board certified in internal medicine, who is a medical doctor, well, as long as I've been practicing law or even longer. And we're going to bring him in and discuss some of the hot medical topics today. So we'll bring in none other than Dr. Michael Patmos. Dr. Michael, you have your following, I call it your cult following on the internet and around the world. And so they're waiting for it with bated breath on what the latest news is in medicine and science today. So they don't want to listen to me. No one wants to listen to lawyers. Can't blame them.
Well, I don't know about a cult following, but at least there's two of you on here. Good morning, everybody. I'm Michael Patmos. I am a board-certified internal medicine physician with added qualifications in infection control and hospital epidemiology. It is my privilege and pleasure to be with you this morning. Today, I thought I would do a little potpourri of some interesting topics that are real hot as of today. The first one is, I'm sure you all read about the horrific shooting at the CDC a couple of weeks ago. Well, there's some more information about that shooting. The shooter was a young man who believed that his depression was caused by the COVID vaccine. And the reason he believed that was because he got misinformation. The most prominent source of misinformation on that specific issue of whether or not COVID vaccine can cause mental health problems like depression and suicidality came from a podcast in which Dr. Peter McCullough stated that as a fact, that there's good evidence that the vaccine causes depression. Well, there is no such good evidence for that. That was false information provided by a cardiologist who isn't even qualified to opine as an expert in psychiatry. Nonetheless, he did. And of course, Dr. McCullough, he has a true cult following and is very popular all around the world. Millions of people think that what he says is valid. And this young man obviously thought that what he said was valid. And he took out his frustration at the CDC, firing some 500 rounds into the CDC buildings, shattering windows and killing an Atlanta police officer before he killed himself. Well, there's been some more follow-up about the CDC shooting. It turns out that Dr. Robert Malone had posted on his Substack a meme that had very violent content. It showed a revolver and had a stupid statement on it that 5 out of 6 doctors believe that Russian roulette is safe. I mean, I don't know what the point of it was, but he posted a meme with, he does tend to post memes with violent content. And he posted a meme with violent content before and after the CDC shooting. Now, it's important because Dr. Malone is on the CDC's advisory committee on immunization practices, and is the most influential physician on that committee, very close to Robert Kennedy, and he's posting inappropriate content. Well, this content is so inappropriate that Senator Richard Blumenthal wrote a scathing letter to Robert Kennedy demanding that Malone be removed because the content was inflammatory and absolutely inappropriate. Think of it. I mean, should someone who occupies an important office in the federal government that influences policy be posting memes anyway, especially memes that deposit some violent content? I suppose, Trump has made that normal. So I guess it's hard to say that it's not, that it is a thing nowadays, but I think it's totally inappropriate. Now, with regard to Senator Blumenthal's letter, I would urge that, and I have written to Senator Blumenthal and urged that Dr. Malone and all of the other experts that are being relied upon now have their resumes subjected to primary source verification. We cannot assume that resumes are valid and truthful. There's data that shows that at least 50% of all resumes contain some fabricated, embellished, or exaggerated content. And I believe that is a major problem nowadays, especially among these experts that have not been thoroughly vetted. And please contact Senator Richard Blumenthal's office. You can get it right off his website, demanding that Dr. Malone's CV be subjected to primary verification by trained investigators. So there's that content. Now, a little something about long COVID. There was just a very good article on long COVID published this morning by Dr. Caitlin Yedalina, who's the foremost epidemiologist in the country. And here's some new updates on long COVID. Turns out that it is actually quite common. About right now, there is let's see. Well, right now there's about 2 to 3% of the entire country is suffering from long COVID. That's not a small amount of people. There are a lot of people out there who have these persisting symptoms. It actually turns out that long COVID is declining. People often recover to some extent over a period of a year or more, and the new cases appear to be declining because vaccination is building up some immunity to the virus. And so if you don't get COVID, you won't get long COVID. The risk is not zero, but it is decreasing a little bit. But the stunning number that really got me was that how many people are walking around with symptoms after COVID that are not insignificant: fatigue, confusion. In some cases, people are bedridden. It can be very serious. And there's no specific treatment for long COVID. It is not an uncommon thing. And yeah, here it is. It's right now there's research that suggests that developing long COVID from a single infection is about 2 to 6%. So that's a pretty significant number of people, 2 to 6% as a result of a single infection. And many people have had more than one infection. With each infection, you do run a risk. The risk of getting long COVID is similar to the risk of having appendicitis. It's about 1 in 15. So it is not a rare thing. It's not like a lightning strike. And there's really no specific treatment for it. A lot of the research around long COVID has been cut, along with hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts to research across many areas of science. Long COVID is one area that will also be impacted and with reduced research going forward. So I think there's some good news. The good news is that that vaccines offer some protection, and the milder COVID is, the less likely you are. There's a direct correlation between severity of infection, severity of disease, and likelihood of developing long COVID. So there's a few comments about that. And I thought I would just take a minute to talk about the issue that the question that came up as we were chatting before we went on the air, and that was about VAERS. Let me say something very important about VAERS. VAERS is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. It was created by CDC about 30 years ago, and it is a passive reporting system. Anybody can report anything. And it's a system that was designed to just collect comments, and then experts could filter through it and see if there's anything real there. The problem with VAERS, and it says so right on the VAERS website, there's a big disclaimer that says that you cannot use VAERS to associate any reported symptom with any vaccination. The problem with VAERS, and it says this right on the disclaimer, is that the information is not corroborated, it's unverified, it could be coincidental, so anything gets reported. And as a result, lots of things are reported to VAERS, but you can never rely on VAERS to say VAERS showed that the vaccine causes this or that. Occasionally, the way I think of VAERS is think of it as raw sewage. It's just raw sewage coming through a large pipe. And maybe in that raw sewage, you find a diamond. maybe. And that's what happened with the myocarditis thing. Myocarditis was from COVID vaccination was identified as a risk because of VAERS. That's one thing that came out of VAERS that is valid. And oh, by the way, you want to guess how many people have died from the COVID vaccine in the United States? Confirmed deaths? Take a guess. Anybody have a guess? 0. Not one confirmed death from COVID vaccine in the United States. 0. Anyhow, back to VAERS. So it turns out that what VAERS is a passive reporting system. Anybody can report anything. And as a result, lots of silly things and unassociated things get reported. There's a lot of people have been concerned about VAERS being misused. And there's no question, all of the anti-vax people are misusing VAERS. Dr. McCullough is notorious for it. Virtually everything he posts is based upon misuse of VAERS. And he has major influence over Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy misuses VAERS. Children's Health Defense misuses VAERS. Physicians for Informed Consent misuses VAERS. Robert Malone misuses VAERS. They all misuse VAERS and use it in a way that is not supposed to be used. It says so right in the disclaimer. Read the disclaimer. But I like VAERS because of the ridiculous things that get reported. I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago. It's on my Substack called Just the Facts on silly things that have been reported to VAERS. And a few of them that I like that came off that I thought were great were someone actually reported that getting vaccinated caused them to turn into the Incredible Hulk. Well, if that's true, then I want that vaccine. Another person reported that getting vaccinated caused them to have an uncontrollable urge to speak French when they never spoke French before. They suddenly could speak French. They began speaking in a foreign language they didn't know. And there's a list of things that just goes on and on. Of things that have been reported, silly things that have been reported in VAERS, causing aliens to appear. That's another great one. So anytime someone says, well, VAERS shows that there's a relationship, throw that information out. VAERS is unverified, unvalidated, sometimes maliciously deposited information that people just think is associated with a vaccine. It's been so misused. And I predicted that it would be misused 30 years ago. I felt that it was a big mistake to do this because people would believe what's on VAERS. That's exactly what has happened. And I don't know. I would love if VAERS went away because I think it's been dangerously misused to misinform the public. And I think there should be consequences. I mean, for a physician to misuse VAERS is unprofessional conduct. It says right on the website that you can't use it that way. So why are physicians misusing VAERS, knowingly misusing VAERS? That's unprofessional conduct, and it should be dealt with by medical boards. But medical boards are kind of not doing much of anything, it seems. So anyhow, that's my comments for today. Basically, please contact Senator Blumenthal. Demand that Malone and others have their CVs checked with primary source verification, and get vaccinated. There's no one who's ever died in the United States from COVID vaccination that has been confirmed, not a single case. And vaccine is the best prevention for for preventing disease and getting long COVID and having serious and critical illness. And then finally, don't pay attention to anything anybody says that purports to show an association between a vaccine and an adverse effect as coming from VAERS. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're going to bring in our panel. We're going to bring in Rick Rosner from Los Angeles, and we have a special guest today, head of the Data Show, former retired Lieutenant Colonel. We're going to have Chris Greco also join us and see if they have any questions or comments. I think we'll start with you, Rick, because you already have one.
All right. Well, so say you have a lunatic in your family or in your office that has made you apprehensive about the mRNA COVID vaccine because, whatever reason. in the next few months, there's a traditional COVID vaccine that is supposed to become available, Novavax, which is built like the vaccines you've been taking for 50 years since you were a little kid, measles, rubella, the really, and it's supposed to offer more durable resistance to COVID. So even if you're a little freaked out by misinformation, there's a traditional COVID vax on the way.
There is. And just a quick comment about traditional vaccines. By traditional vaccines, you're talking about, inactivated or whole virus vaccines where the whole thing is ground up and rendered less infectious or non-infectious. Those vaccines actually, there are legitimate risks of side effects with those vaccines because they're dirty in the sense they have a lot of molecular debris in them. One of the advantages of the mRNA vaccine is it's very clean. There's only one thing, and there's a little bit of messenger RNA that causes the development of one antigen transiently that stimulates the immune system. But you're right. I don't know what vaccines are going to be available. I fear that RFK wants to just generally across the board restrict vaccines or make them more difficult to get. But get vaccinated against COVID.
There's a ton of it out there right now.
Yes, we're having a surge right now. It's not as bad as it because we have more immunized people than we did 5 years ago. And so, but there is a surge right now. And I'm seeing COVID patients almost every time I log in to do telemedicine, I see a COVID patient or two every day. It's out there.
I dodged it for 5.5 years and I got it last month. And I'm pissed because if we'd done, if America had been less crazy, maybe there would be less of it to catch 5.5 years in.
You're right. By suppressing immunization, we contributed to the creation of a host reservoir. The goal with any immunization is to get at least 95% of the population vaccinated to reduce the likelihood of establishing a host reservoir. Like I've said before, this virus doesn't fall out of the sky. The virus is hosted, perpetuated, replicated, mutated, and disseminated by us. We are the host reservoir. So the more population that has immunity, the smaller the host reservoir. Discouraging immunization increases the size of the host reservoir, which increases and perpetuates infection.
Plus, we had a terrible last flu season, because people have been made suspicious of all vaccines. I've read, I can't believe this number is true, that 130,000 Americans died of flu. That can't be right. That would be like insane.
I don't know if that's the right number, but I can tell you that number would not be out of the realm of possibility. On a typical year, somewhere between 30 to 50,000 Americans die every year from influenza. Doctors practicing, we see patients die of influenza every season. It's a fatal disease.
So, but one that you can get vaccinated against.
Yes. And the vaccine is pretty good. It prevents infection by about 30 to 40%. That's not bad. And it prevents death. Remember, the purpose of vaccination is to prevent death. That's the reason we vaccinate. The secondary reason is to prevent critical illness. The third reason is to reduce the likelihood in the population of creating a host reservoir.
Dr. Patmos, are they going to come out with a new vaccine for the flu this year? Because I've heard conflicting reports the CDC is being heavily influenced by maniacs, and
yes.
Which means, are they going to come out with it or not? If not, should I rely on my service providers here in the European Union?
I don't know what the CDC, who, right now, the American, give me an example. The American Academy of Pediatrics not only has sued Robert Kennedy, but they've also issued their own guidelines for vaccination, for COVID vaccination in children. They're basically saying CDC is not valid anymore. At least the ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Infection Practices, isn't valid. There's nobody on that committee who has any qualifications. None. The most influential person on that committee with respect to vaccination and science is Dr. Robert Malone, who has his training consists of 1 year of pathology internship. That's it. He's not board certified in any area of medicine. He's not board eligible even. He's not a microbiologist. He's not a infectious disease doctor. He's got 1 year of pathology internship, and he's done some research, none of which has resulted in the availability of any vaccine. There's no he says he's spent his entire career developing vaccines. There isn't a single commercially available vaccine that he has ever brought to market that he's responsible for coming to market. Not one. So he's the most powerful man on the ACIP. He has Robert F. Kennedy's ear. He's the one shaping Robert F. Kennedy's policies. And my concern, of course, is that Dr. Malone, who did research when he was a student working in a lab, when he was a medical student with Dr. Verma, and he thinks that he invented it. In his mind, I guess he did, that he invented messenger RNA transfection. He was working in the lab of his professor, whose research it was. He tried to take credit for it, sole credit for it by himself.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
well, since the lunatics are running the asylum there in your United States, and I have the advantage that I'm actually insured in the U.S. and the European Union, should I rely more on the European Union?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought would be the answer, because
Yes.
I'm very concerned. For years, I would get my vaccine, my influenza vaccine, and I would see they'd go through a process of trying to identify the correct strains. Today, I see you have lunatics running the asylum, and I don't trust the American system, but not for the reasons they don't trust it. I don't trust it because the lunatics have taken over, and I prefer to get my vaccines from the European Union, since I'm pay for that here too.
Newsflash: scientists are leaving the United States. Other companies, I read an article about there's a strategy now afoot being talked about at Moderna and Pfizer and other companies to move their mRNA, because mRNA research has been gutted. Kennedy has cut funding for mRNA research. So these companies are moving their research overseas. If scientists are moving overseas, investigators, physicians are moving overseas. All of this is going to go outside the United States. The United States is going to become a third world country from the standpoint of
the EU has allocated millions of dollars to recruit uneasy U.S. scientists, saying, come over here, you can do your research. And that mRNA research, $500 million, $500 million that was cut off. That's research into cancer vaccines.
Yes.
And this is stuff that is saving lives, and the absence of it will cost tens of thousands of lives.
You can't say that, Rick. You can't say that.
Yes,
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a data guy. No, look, you guys, no. You can say it, and you can say it, and you can certainly have an opinion on that, but you cannot say that. And I mean, look, I am all about vaccines. I get it. In the military, they required us every year. As a matter of fact, it was mandated. If you didn't get the flu vaccine and you got the flu, you could literally have either non-judicial punishment, or if in lieu of that, you could go to court-martial. I mean, it was like you were destroying government. The way they put it was, you are destroying government property yourself. So therefore, you would literally go. I mean, so I'm in, man. I mean, the COVID stuff, the mRNA, I'm kind of about. But the Novavax, when it comes out, I'm there. I took Johnson & Johnson. I had no problems with it. Everything was good. Now, look, it's my preference, right? People have preferences.
No, it's not your preference. It's your obligation. It is your moral and
no. I meant towards vaccines. No, I get it. Yeah. It's my preference towards vaccines. If I want to have a protein based, then I'm going to wait for the protein based. If I want mRNA, I'll get mRNA. That's just my preference on the whole thing. Whether it was, and I agree with that. The way the CDC came out, the way the CDC came out, the CDC just came out, according to the Associated Press, and said that they do not recommend kids getting COVID-19 shots. But if the parents are concerned, they need to talk with their physician to get an idea as to whether or not their kids should be vaccinated. Now, I realize, that is, to me, that's giving the parents the responsibility for their kids. If the parents, you're saying, but I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent. Look, if my kids,
moral and ethical duty to protect your children and to protect society. The CDC said that. Robert Malone said that. That's where that's coming from. That is wrong. And let me tell you why. 20 million lives were saved around the world because of the mRNA vaccination. 20 million lives.
COVID again, it's a data. I'm a data guy. You can't, you can postulate, you can certainly postulate that. You can certainly extrapolate that. You can do all that. But that's
been published in legitimate medical journals in UpToDate. That's the estimate of the number of lives saved.
Yeah. And it's million. And you're saying you're saying that 100 million would have died had not 100 million would have died.
Yes.
That's all extrapolate. Dr. Patmos, you can't do that on data. You can't just say it's a straight line regression. It's a straight line regression all the way.
So you can't, how many people died? Rick, hang on. This is an important point. How many people died of the Spanish flu around the world?
50 million at least.
50 million. When COVID first came out, the infectious disease doctor said, based upon the infectivity rate of this virus without intervention, this is an extinction event, a submassive extinction event. We could lose 2, 3, 4, 5% or more of the human population. Hundreds of millions of people could have died from COVID. And let me get news for you. Another epidemic is going to come. Another pandemic will come that can kill 5% or more of the human population. These are not fantasies. These things have happened in the past, and they they happen with regularity and will happen again.
So also, let me clarify my points before you attack my data. Pancreatic cancer kills more than 50,000 Americans every year. And pancreatic vaccines are being developed, and that can save half of those people who'd otherwise be dead. So I'm just saying that if you delay research on a pancreatic cancer vaccine, you might essentially be killing 25,000 Americans who might otherwise die.
Your opinion, Rick. That's your opinion, and you can go ahead and make that opinion, and that's okay. Look, if that's your opinion, if that's how strongly you feel about that, good. That's good. And trust me, if it saves one person. If the pancreatic vaccine saves one person, and that person happens to be someone I know, someone I love, then that thing is way worth it. You don't have to save 50,000 people. Just save a person that I care about.
How many people will die if we stop measles immunization? How many people will die if we stop measles immunization? Can
stop it and find out. Stop it and find out.
You can project it. We know. We lived before we had measles immunization. We know how many people will die.
And again, you have to take into consideration a lot of confounding factors that go into that, Dr. Patmos. Now, I get it. I understand. I think a lot of this is hyperbole, but it's probably okay from the standpoint of getting people safe. So if they're going to hyperbole for the safeness of people, for the safety of people, that's kind of from an ethical standpoint, it's a really weird situation.
It's not hyperbole. More
population
died from infectious diseases in human history than all other diseases combined. Infectious diseases.
You can't prove that. No, you can't. No, you can't prove that. Prove it.
Chris, I don't think you need to prove that.
The history of smallpox.
Subject matter experts are allowed in court.
Right,
subject matter experts are allowed in court to actually basically discuss hypotheticals.
Yes.
In other words, and then the thing
that's what they are.
There are hypotheticals, but you can only bring your subject matter. You can bring your subject matter expert to also countervene that. But if you look at it, what Dr. Patmos is saying, which I agree with, if you look at the Spanish flu, it killed 50 million people, and that's pretty much verified, when the population base was like half it is today. So if you take something that is
exactly
viral today, it could easily be 100 million. And yes, it calls for hypothetical, but it's not beyond the stretch of anybody's imagination.
No, I'm not. But, go ahead.
But my imagination is about to end because we're at the half hour. But we do want to thank our viewership in the United States and around the world for listening to.
Sorry, guys.
We'll see you next week. Got another show.
Love you guys.
We'll
Dr. Patmos, way to go, man.
Okay.